detail. They show, for example, a trash screen, keep sticks and logs out of the pipes, but it doesn't show how it's being built. It doesn't show any detail, it doesn't show the sizes, it doesn't show the material. So we're asking that the engineer detail that so that when the contractor builds it, we know what he's going to build, and if he doesn't build it correctly, then we have something here in this room to complain about. That's just a brief thumbnail sample. There are a number of little things like that. The attorneys are going around about the ability to build a piece of pipe that's not on their property, and there's some haranguing over easement issues. That'll get resolved, or else Booyara is not going to have the agreement ready to be signed. But presuming that it does, we recommend that you go ahead and do it to get the developer under his way, and it'll all be made subject to these other conditions being finalized before construction can proceed on those items. That shouldn't hold up the developer. Construction on the irrigation ditch doesn't have to happen right away at all. It just has to happen sometime before next spring. So he's got plenty of time to perfect a lot of the little details before he goes to work on it. We believe it's a win-win, and it's a good system the way it's going in now. We believe there will be some differences in how the ditch is operated. There'll be a learning curve. It'll be a fairly easy learning curve. There'll be a learning curve on the part of the ditch operator for not only Remington Post, but for the church east of County Estates and for the cemetery and the ditch rider. So everybody's going to have to go out there and see how the thing operates. Today, the water just gets here without doing anything. You just sit here, the water will come. The way it's going to happen later is that the church, in order to get their water, because of the new design, is going to have to operate your gate and theirs. You're going to have to close your gate partially for a short time, allow the water to go into their cistern. Once it's full, they close it and open yours back up. And it's just a matter of getting out there with the church. But it's a much nicer, it'll be a brand new diversion box. It'll have nice, right now that's being held in place with a piece of barbed wire. So anything we're doing now is going to be better than what it was then. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. And rather than bore you with everything, suffice it to say that I think Barney has really hung on to his guns on just wanting to protect water, not only water rights, but also the water quality and quantity. And his instructions were just do everything you can not to allow that to be degraded.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Questions?
So I want questions from the board first, because this is something we're going to need to vote on tonight.
Well, one thing you need to know is, I mean, Charlie's very positive, but the developer has been kind of arrogant and assumed initially we would just sign this.
Maybe it's like professors, it just comes with the job.
Very lecturing developer. There is still a possibility that they won't agree to these changes. So the problem with that is we'll have legal costs. But the problem is it's our water. My position is that we have to protect our water no matter what.
It certainly seems appropriate. So Dan,
We own what's 1/4.
okay.
We own 0.25 of our portion of the land.
Okay.
I guess the only really question I have is what kind of complicity do we have to have with the church itself? You mentioned that they have to, there's some handshake of sorts that has to go on between the two of us for them to utilize that water.
Yeah, and it's not all your water.
Right,
It's
no.
a ditch lateral, and it contains water for at least 3 users. The cemetery, Remington Post, and the church. And I don't think there's anyone else, right? It doesn't matter for the purpose of what we're doing. What does matter is that when the church operates a gate, which they do now, they go in there and just open their gate and then they close it. But your gate is always open. With the way the new design had to work, your gate had to be partially closed in order to deflect water over to the church. And if we didn't do it that way, then they were going to lower the church's gate below yours, and the church would always get it until their gate was closed. This way, you can get partial flow. Both can get partial flow. So I had them raise the bottom and equalize the two pipes so they both had an equal opportunity and adjust flows using these slide gates.
Okay. And that's requires manual intervention, I get it.
It does, but operating ditch does require that.
And this is our sole sprinkler source. This water is the only source for our sprinkler system.
when it's working.
And it's-
Charlie, do you know if our water rights are fully adjudicated?
No, I do not.
That's critical.
I haven't dug into any of the rights
We ought to
themselves.
find out, because if
Oh,
they're
yeah.
not, we can lose part or all.
Barney's been talking to me about going further into this now.
Yeah,
Right now, we've been worried about the physical construction and what are they gonna do to the delivery system. We need to delve into the actual water rights, the rest of the system beyond that project, which means from the diagonal on. Even that is said to be coming under attack by a new project. I think the city of Boulder has a new project in which they're going to modify that ditch. So that between the diagonal and here. So that's just one more. It's vigilance when you're a ditch owner.
So, can I just ask, do we have a proposal that we could, that meets what you think is a sensible plan, and the lawyer is, is comfortable with, go ahead with?
We have a plan, and I have a plan, and then I have comments on that plan. And I've told the engineers that I would recommend to you approval, subject to their meeting those conditions. So those conditions can all be put into the agreement. We are just putting the agreement together. There's really one or two more other little things. The agreement is not together, not yet. Unfortunately, the meeting and the work just didn't seem to coincide.
Do you have a sense of how soon this would be ready and?
Yeah, I think it's not very far away. Days.
So one thing we could do as a board is agree that, that we agree to this idea in principle, and when the document is ready, barring anything different from what we just heard, you'd let me go ahead and okay. And we'd instruct the lawyer to draft the document and offer it to their lawyer.
And
What
actually-
Mr. Moran said, right, was that we may have to pay if they don't agree with what we want.
Yeah, you have to understand that if they don't agree to what our lawyer lists as changes that we want, then we have to fight. And if we have to fight, it costs
To pay
money.
your lawyer.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Now, up to now, the developer's been paying our lawyer and the engineer. But with this threat, that's now becoming possible that we're exposed to expenses.
You deal with this sort of thing more often than we do.
Yeah.
So what is your read on what this means in the chess game we're playing?
What means the
What that letter means, given the previous communications, and I read the letter.
Yeah,
so-
it's in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's a threat, and that's all it is. There's nothing really that we have done, or you're not required to do anything. But it's a good idea to do something to protect your interests. The developer is being required by the city of Boulder to get this signed, and that's stopping his development.
So he's anxious to get it going.
He's
He's
anxious to
trying
get
to
it going.
push us to get it.
But Barney's right. Throughout the project, it's been kind of a full court press. Hurry up! Hurry up! Hurry up! Got to do it! Got to do it! You don't need to look at that. This kind of stuff. And that's typical. If it was your project, you'd do the same thing. He'd push to get it done quickly because he says he's losing money.
Well, and so if the worry is that he's losing money, I'm sorry to interrupt, then it seems to me the odds that we have to worry that he wants to go to court over this and drag us through some process, threatening us with those things that letter said, seems highly unlikely if we come back shortly with a proposal.
But yes, and Remington Post attorneys have talked to those attorneys, and the tone of that conversation was very different than the letter. The letter was kind of an instructed letter from the developer to have his attorney write. And it's one of the techniques that sometimes is used to get people off dead center is to threaten somebody with something. So they write a strong letter, and then they come back and say, well, okay, we got him going. There's nothing wrong with us go ahead and giving into that. Let them think that they spur us into action. So, okay, So what I recommend we are this afternoon is that we take an agreement, which he's already structured. We add a few things to it, like the letter that I sent out today, which is dated September 20, to the engineers, and those are conditions. And we simply sign a conditional letter or conditional agreement. We agree to it. Now, here's what we agreed to. And then let them come back if they don't like it. Yeah. So it's, we've done an agreement, and it's, the likelihood of them doing anything like filing a lawsuit and actually getting anywhere with it, I'm not an attorney, but I've seen a lot of these things, and that is a typical tactic. It works well.
I was gonna
Yes.
say, they're gonna have to have stamped engineer drawings to pull permits from the city. Are you gonna be looking over those prior
That's
to a finalized agreement?
That's what I've been looking at.
Okay, perfect. And then will we have, is there any stipulations within our agreement that we'll have access to the final inspection reports at the end?
That's a question that I have put to Bouillard, whether we actually have any follow-up inspection during construction. I know that prior to construction, there is a provision in the agreement that we have to meet with the contractor. So we have that going in. There probably should be, if the developer is doing his job, he'll want us to sign off. He won't want to just let it go and then have somebody complain to him 6 months later. He'll want that sign on. So probably there should be that. I've talked to Bouillard about it, but that's one of the items that needs to be in the agreement. And I'll work with Barney in getting that list of items. Over the course of the last several months, I've developed a list of things that go into the agreement, as had Bouillard and Barney, but they aren't all codified as yet.
Okay. Well, it doesn't seem to me that we need to know all these details. That's what we have professionals for, lawyers and engineers and so on. It seems to me that we can simply draft a quick resolution, particularly since time is short, we have lots of other things to talk about, to the effect that we as a board approve the plan to go ahead and come up with an acceptance agreement with conditions, which will be drafted by the lawyer and yourself, and will be presented to this property developer. And does anyone want to make that? But I can't do it by
Make
Robert's
that
rules
motion.
of order, make that motion.
Dan,
Let's see,
maybe not.
a motion that we approve the agreement to propose changes to the developer, and that we agree to the project, provided that these stipulations are done.
Tyler, you want to clean
Can
that?
can I clean that up?
Yeah,
And
why
can
don't
make it subject to the conditions of the email from me, Charles Keim, spelled K-E-I-M, to the engineer, dated September 20th, 2012.
I have a copy of this email.
And yeah, I'll hand you a copy of
Oh,
one. You have, it's in your board packet, I think.
oh, yeah, right.
And further subject to the conditions of an email from myself to Barney Moran et al., and I think you're copied on that as well, from this afternoon, conditioning the acquisition of an easement for the construction of the proposed realignment, easement or other suitable substitute. Here's the series of conditions.
Oh, that's this, oh, right.
I sent this to you this afternoon as an attachment to the one with the 4 points and 3.
Okay. Thanks.
If you want the whole email, here's his original
I
response.
have it. So just to remind
Let's see if I've got the other one here that.
Okay, somebody needs
you.
a
So
second.
Tyler, do you want to read this?
Yeah,
I can give you the name of the proposal. It's a ditch modification proposal offered by Calmia Estates Irrigation. Calmia Estates?